Let's take a look at the artist Jeff Koons. He's a contemporary artist that creates art that looks like everyday objects, such as inflatable toys, Play-Doh, and porcelain knickknacks. He's considered a neo-pop artist, which is a group of artists that look to the pop art movement for inspiration, the items of popular culture. Looking at some of these inflatable balloons that are shaped in the form of dogs is our inspiration as we begin working on our project today. Now, you're going to get one of these ovals, and onto a sheet of construction paper, please go around that oval 7 times. If you count them there, you'll count 7. You'll need all 7. Now, the other thing that I forgot to add was I wanted to add a triangle that can be used as the end of the inflatable balloon and a big, long, almost like a D, the letter D in the alphabet. That's going to be used as his tail. So I'm just going to go ahead and take an oil pastel, and now that I've drawn everything in pencil, I want to outline it with black. I really want it to stand out, and I want to save or keep this black line for my project. You'll see here in just a few moments. Now you'll notice I grabbed a white oil pastel. This is going to make the balloons look more like balloons because right now they look pretty flat, being all just one color of green. So the white is going to be used as a highlight. You know, the parts that made the balloons look shiny, the parts that made it look like the sun was hitting or reflected off of those metal sculptures. So let's add a little bit of white and a darker green for some shadow, or whatever color you used. If you used red, you might want to use a darker value of red, and so on and so forth. Now, while that's setting aside, let's start working on our background. As you could see from some of those images at the beginning of the video, some of these sculptures are outside. And because they're outside, you might want to add some items that you would see outside. So I drew in pencil a line at the bottom, as well as some different shapes for buildings. Some of my buildings are rectangles, some are squares, some have triangular rooftops, and maybe some of my windows use circles. Think about all the different shapes that can be used when making your city. I like to add a few clouds into the sky to make it look a little bit more lifelike or out in nature. If you want to add a few colors with your oil pastels for your buildings, by all means, go ahead. Now, taking a green sheet of paper, you'll notice that I gently and carefully started to tear that paper away. As I tore that paper, this is going to be used to make it look like more of a landscape. Some of those trees that you could see in some of those sculptural items. So using a black crayon, I'm just going to go ahead and add some trees and some green oil pastel to make it look more like a landscape. There. Now that I've got those items completed, I'm going to go ahead and glue these together. Do you remember those 7 ovals that we created to make them look like a form? Make it look not so flat, but instead 3D. Now that I've got those items, I'm going to cut those out and start assembling my balloon dog. I really think this is going to look awesome. Now, using your head, which direction would the highlights be? The top or the bottom? Every time I glue these pieces down, I'm always thinking, which side would the sun hit? Which side would the highlights most fit best on? I really wanted to have that showing towards the top or showing towards the sun area as I assemble this dog sculpture together. Wow, I wonder what the artist Jeff Koons would think if he saw this. Another variation. As you have your ovals, instead of using all oil pastels, an ink dauber might show this project a little bit more interest as well. So as I took my ink dauber, I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing that I did in the first part, only now I'm going to be using ink dauber, white paint, and a darker red paint. Again, showing that idea of form, making these balloons not look so flat, but instead more 3D. I didn't think you could see that red very well on the red construction paper. I want to give it more of a shadow, so I added just a little tint of black to the red to make it look like it's a little bit more round. Okay, now let's go ahead and make that city once more. Rectangles, squares, triangular rooftops, circles for windows, maybe rectangles, whatever kinds of shapes that you want to use. Again, you can use your black oil pastel, or if you really enjoyed using the ink dauber, go ahead and follow your pencil lines using that black ink dauber. The ink dauber is such a wide tip though, don't worry about getting some of those small itty bitty lines that you use for the windows. Just do the best that you can and using that ink dauber to fill up the space. I love it. It dries so quickly. Taking the green construction paper, creating a little bit of texture to the top part of those trees. And I'm going to go ahead and continue making those look like part of that landscape. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and back to those ovals that I've created. Assemble those again, thinking to yourself, which side would the sun be hitting? Which side should the highlights be to make my dog sculpture, my balloon dog sculpture, more realistic? Making it look like the sun is reflecting and shining on and giving some highlights to my project. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue these together. Dot, dot, dot is a lot, lot, lot. And once I've assembled it together, I'll set it on the drying rack to dry. Hope you had fun, everybody. I can't wait to see what you made.